Hi, y'all, and this is the Nate DOG, and let's talk about the thing that everyone's talking about, and that is the final college football playoff poll. And this one decides who's playing for the national championship. And after the smoke cleared, dust settled, they decided that Michigan is number one, Washington is number two, Texas is number three, and Alabama is number four. If you notice there's anyone missing, it's an undefeated Florida State team. And I'm kind of wondering why. I hear all of the compelling arguments on all sides. I hear that the committee is using the little clause that says, hey, availability of a coach or a player could matter. But I don't think anyone really used that clause when Ohio State qualified for the tournament in 2014. Of course, it was computers and all that other stuff, the BCS, whatever it was. But it didn't matter that Ohio State was operating with their third string quarterback, and that third string quarterback turned around and won the national championship. So there is precedent. But I think it's a little different. So let's get at it. If Georgia would have won their game, now I know we're talking about ifs, and if it were fifth, we'd all be drunk right now. But follow me here. If Georgia won, Michigan won, Washington won, Florida State won. If all the top four win, we don't have this conversation. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's it. Case closed. And you're saying, Nate, why? I'm going to tell you why. Because the whole paradox was, if Alabama beat Georgia, would Georgia then drop all the way out, and would Alabama leapfrog 4 teams, or at least 3 teams, to get in the tournament? Alabama's argument is, hey, in order to beat a man, you got to beat the man. And they beat the man. They beat the reigning defending champion, and they happen to be the number one team. Something no one has been able to do. So they beat the number one team. They feel that's their right. We beat the number one team. And we were number 8. We're in striking distance. We should be able to do it because we did something that no one else was able to do. Be the number one team. And nobody has a number one team on their resume. However, here's Texas. Because in week 2, Texas goes to Tuscaloosa and beats Alabama in their house. You don't think that had a lot of weight? There's no way in the world that you're going to leapfrog Alabama over Texas, seeing Texas beat them in Alabama's house. So, if Georgia wins, it gives Alabama 2 losses. It now minimizes the victory that Texas got over Alabama. And meanwhile, Florida State wins their conference championship. Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Florida State. There's no other argument. Because Florida State was good enough to be ranked number 4, slipping to 5 only one time, and then back up to 4. And all the rankings, Florida State was not lower than 5, and they were number 5 only 1 week. So how did Florida State get bad all of a sudden? Well, they lost their quarterback. But again, I showed you. Cardell Jones was the 3rd stringer and won a championship. So how you going to sit up here and predict what this team may do? But we also have to remember, folks, that the college football playoff is a series of partnerships. And one of the partnerships includes the worldwide leader in misinformation, sports entertainment, ESPN. And ESPN understands that a Michigan-Florida State game will get some eyeballs, but Michigan-Alabama commands attention. Not to mention the fact these two are storied programs. But we also have to look at the fact you got high-profile coach Nick Saban, arguably the greatest college football coach of our generation, versus Jim Harbaugh, the most polarizing coach in our generation. And with ESPN's ties to the SEC, meaning the SEC network, meaning Paul Feinbaum, who has went on every platform of ESPN, sharing with all of us his distaste for Jim Harbaugh. Don't you think for one doggone minute Ears isn't going to show up on First Take? He isn't going to show up on SportsCenter. He isn't going to show up on every little platform ESPN has, banging the drum against Michigan. He even said if Michigan wins the championship, he's not going to recognize it. Well, thankfully, Paul Feinbaum is not a commissioner of any type of league or organization. So whether he recognizes it or not, we really care less. But don't you think that's going to bring in numbers? It may not bring in the numbers that Fox enjoyed with the Michigan versus Ohio State matchup, but trust and believe, there's going to be a lot of people watching that Rose Bowl or whatever game it's going to be. A lot of people are going to watch. That's going to be must-see TV. Now, you could not bring Alabama to the party without bringing in Texas, because with Alabama beating Georgia, the reverse effect happened. It now magnified their victory over Alabama, meaning Texas. Because Texas is saying, we beat the man who beat the man. Where's ours? And then you look at Florida State, and Florida State doesn't have a high-profile victory in their bag. So the committee looks up, and the committee says, dang, Georgia, you made life hard for us. Because now we got to give the people, we can't sit up here and look at Florida State and say, you went undefeated and you were number 4. All you had to do was play defense. Well, Georgia messed it up. Because by Georgia losing to Alabama, we must reward Alabama. And because Texas beat Alabama, we must reward them too. And you're the odd guy out. Thanks for playing. There's some gifts backstage. See you next year. Now, everybody's saying that, well, this will be the last year of this problem, because next year, you don't have to worry about it. because there'll be 13 teams. That means teams who didn't get to play in a championship game, who will benefit because they'll have an extra week off to rest, like Ohio State. Oh, they're in easy. They'll be in the first round, but they'll get in easy. The only thing is the seeding. So an undefeated team, such as Florida State, under the new system, the 4 teams that we have now, they would have a bye week. That means everybody else plays an extra game. So now you have Florida State, potentially, a team who won their championship, undefeated. They're going to have to play an extra game against a team possibly like Ohio State, who's well rested. Is that really a reward? But those are the arguments that we're going to have in this 12-team menagerie. The arguments aren't going to end. I'd say they're going to get worse because now you're going to be fighting over seeding. And you're going to be fighting over who should get that week off of rest versus who shouldn't. And of course, not that I care about it, but team number 13 is always going to have a problem with it. It's like the NCAA tournament. You got 68 teams that go in. Team 69 is going to believe that they got jobbed. But there's enough games on the table where, as the great Bill Parcells once said, you are what your record is. Now, I also think that we need to start working on a system where, and I'm being fair with you, strength of schedule really needs to be beefed up. Now, I know a lot of these schedules are done years in advance, but I give credit to Texas and Alabama because that schedule could have been fatal. The fact that they played each other, it's great for college football, but it could have been fatal to Alabama and Texas. But in this case, because they played each other in the beginning of the season, that strong schedule and that game is the sole reason why those two are in the playoff today. So, while I believe what the committee did was gutless in denying Florida State, on the other hand, they did send a message, which is stop scheduling cupcakes. Or if you're going to get full on cupcakes, make sure you eat all of your cupcakes. I've been telling all you guys that Georgia had a soft schedule and that one loss at the end of the year cost them. You got to get better schedules. Now, people said Michigan's schedule was soft. But like I said Michigan's schedule was backloaded. Because what happened? Their last 3 games of the season, they had a number 10 team that they had to beat in their house, a trap game, and then they faced the number 2 team at home, which was Ohio State. Oh, by the way, those 2 teams are still in the top 10. Show me somebody else that played 2 teams in the top 10. And I'm sorry, Washington don't count. Because if you play the same team twice, no. I'm not giving you that one. And plus, you owned Oregon anyway. Talking about Washington. So, that's the Final Four. That's my view on the 13. It's going to be great playoffs, I think. But I do believe that it wasn't so much about the personnel. It was the fact that ESPN sat up here and said, we can get nice figures with Michigan, Florida State. But we can tear the roof off the sucker with Michigan, Alabama. And you know what? As much as I don't like to give the suits at ESPN credit, they are absolutely right. And at the end of the day, it's about getting me and you and people who don't root for Michigan or don't root for Alabama, who roots for neither team. Those are the people they want to watch, and that's the majority. Now, let's also talk about one final thing. And this is my fanboy in me. I just love the fact that, I love Gus Johnson as a commentator. I think he's enthusiastic, and I think he brings some excitement to the game. Because like I said, these are kids. This isn't a professional game. This is kids. And we're okay to cheer and raise pom-poms. We don't do that in a pro game. But this is college. So I think he's the perfect guy for college. It's almost like, the great Keith Jackson and the Whoa Nelly. Hey, this is college ball, and it brings fun and excitement to the game. So I'm not a Gus Johnson hater in that aspect. I do believe that he wishes he could just have went to the Ohio State University because he loves them so much. And that's fine. But baby, how many times, if I had $1 for every time he mentioned the sign stealing scandal, I would be drunk from all the Cavassier that I would probably purchase. Now, I don't drink, y'all. Just saying. Jim Harbaugh took that suspension, and Michigan rescinded their lawsuit because they wanted to get the distraction of that out of the way. The Big Ten closed their case after it was done. The NCAA will rule in the offseason. After he said it the first time, there's nothing else to talk about. Now let's put our attention on the field. But he kept going, and he kept going, and he kept going. And then his partner, who I also think is probably one of the better commentators in college football, Joel Klatt. Oh my God, the Iowa defense, they're in the game. 26-0, guys. 26-0. Now, Iowa's defense was lights out, and they made things very difficult for Michigan. But Michigan still scored touchdowns. Michigan's defense got turnovers, gave the offense a short field, and it was only a matter of time before they got wore out. And that's exactly what happened. The point spread was 22. Michigan scored 26 and shut them out. That, my friend, is called dominance. Why are we not talking about the dominant Michigan defense instead of the very good Iowa defense? Man, what, you trying to gin it up that people are going to watch the game, or you're thinking it's going to be an upset? Sorry, Charlie, it wasn't happening. We all knew that Iowa offense is putrid. If they had a piece of an offense, it would have been a more competitive game. Because that Iowa defense is lights out. They're number 13 in scoring, number 7 in offense, and yards given up. That's a top 20 defense. So Michigan having problems with it? You're doggone right. Most teams do. That's why they won 10 games this year. But my goodness, this love of Michigan's enemies. That's why I'm wearing my Michigan versus everybody, because this is real, y'all. But instead of whining and saying, oh, the commentators are against us, no, we're embracing it. We are Ric Flair. And we're going to walk down that aisle. And we're going to act like Ric Flair. We're going to strut. We're going to show off. We're going to stick our chests out. It's Michigan versus everybody. And like Blake Corum said, if you ain't with us, that means you was against us. I'm looking forward to these playoffs, no matter what the result is. But that's it. Taking a lot of y'all time. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop this right here. I will have a thought drop. We are going to talk about my hatred of bowl games that are not playoff games. And maybe this playoff thing will resolve everything. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about players who ain't going to the bowl game. We're going to talk about that too. And we're pretty much going to put a button on regular season college football coverage as we get you set for, basketball is going to start to move in, the championships, and of course, the National Football League. They're heading the home stretch. We're going to hit all that. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Remember what I said about comments? Kids, watch this. And we don't want to have bad language up in here. Remember, if you can't say it in front of your mama, don't say it here. And of course, I want to thank you for spending time listening or watching this broadcast. And I thank you so much. I appreciate you immensely. Again, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, hit the bell. That way you'll be notified about any new information that I drop on this here channel. And, if what does Spike Lee say? If the Lord willing and the creek don't rise, I'll be here for the thought drop middle of this week. So until then, this is the Nate DOG saying as always, I wish you love, peace, hair grease.